mean, listen, they've been playing terrific basketball. You know, they're off to obviously an incredible start. I think the two things that stood out most, you know, in terms of watching them and looking at, you know, their stats, analytics, that kind of stuff, is the shot blocking. It's almost 12 a game. Those are basically turnovers. I thought we made some relatively good decisions when we got in there. And then the other part was they're very, very good with their hands, and they generate a lot of steals, you know. So we knew those things coming in. I think we had 9, you know, at the half. I think they scored 19 points on those turnovers. But, you know, we really competed and played hard and did a lot of really, really good things, but certainly a lot of it was self-inflicted on that. And we've got to get that cleaned up, you know, in terms of being better, you know, in that area. And a lot of it to me was just like some carelessness things, you know, driving into areas that there's no reason to drive into. Those things really came back and hurt us. So we were kind of playing, you know, uphill with the number of turnovers that we had.
Billy, I know I asked you this very similar question last week. There were 2 big turnover games, and then obviously when you're playing against elite players like a Luka, like an Ant, and now with Donovan, it seems like you talked about the margin of error. I mean, is this message being relayed to these guys as far as ball security and just, hey, I mean, we can't afford to continue doing this?
Oh yeah, I mean, that's being talked about quite often, and certainly going into today, talking about those things that I mentioned before about the shot blocking and their ability to generate steals. I know you had mentioned, we had talked a little bit about, you know, the fact of, you know, having multiple handlers. I didn't really think that we did a poor job at all in transition. Like, I thought we were pretty good in transition. It was just a half court, deflected passes, driving really where we don't need to be driving. You know, it was really more in the half court, you know, that we turned it over. And, you know, they're long, they're athletic, they switch. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be, like, I think we're playing fast and we're trying to play fast inside the half court, because at times the best thing for us is to get bodies off of us physically. But that just requires the guy with the ball's got to make good decisions and be sound, you know. But there was too many passes that, you know, just weren't there, you know, or we drove into areas that weren't there. We get caught having to make a play that's tough to make because we put ourselves in a difficult situation.
Zach had a lot on display tonight, obviously, with Donovan. Zach had a lot on display tonight, obviously, with Donovan, his primary sign. And how do you think he played tonight? I mean, it looked like he tried to just stay within the game. I mean, didn't try to force too much. And it looks like he at least tried to take on the challenge as well as he could against Donovan.
He's been great. I mean, I think he's playing really, really well. I think a big part of it, you know, has been his health. But he's tried to take on defensive challenges every game, you know, regardless of who we've played against. And, you know, for as fast as we're playing, and then on top of that, him having to defend in a lot of ways, the other team's best perimeter player. That's a lot. It's a lot. And he's, I think, given the group, and myself as a coach, everything he has, you know. So I mean, I thought he played a great all-around game. I know there was a couple of possessions like any player's going to want back, but overall, I mean, I thought he was very efficient and played very effectively on both ends.
Billy, you talked about guys kind of driving the ball where it doesn't need to be driven. Is that because, like, players' bodies aren't moving and guys are trying to make something happen on their own, or something else entirely?
I think for some of our guys, some of the younger guys, it's decision making. Now, obviously, there was some other guys like Josh had 5. I think Kobe, I don't know what he had, you know, quite a bit too. The two of them, I think, had 9 together. So I don't want to sit there and say it's all the young guys, but like, there's just like Josh is too good of a passer, and you got a side of the bounds pass deflected. He tried to throw one back to Vooch that got picked off. Vooch was wide open. It was the right look, but we just got to execute it a little bit better. You know, I thought Kobe had a couple where he got deep, he's in the air, and he's trying to make a play in the air against those guys. It's tough. You know, and then we just had some other random ones, you know, where, like I said, you know, guys can look down at the stat sheet and say, oh, well, I only had 2 turnovers, but, you know, you play 9 or 10 guys and everybody has 2 turnovers. It's a lot, you know, so we've got to be much better there. So, you know, I did think some of it, the zone hurt us in the third quarter with our second unit, with our younger guys, you know, them finding spots in open areas. And we did have some turnovers there. But, you know, some of it's, to be quite honest, just decision making. It's just all comes down to decision making, and you know, it's all having a split second to make a decision, whether to pass it, shoot it, or drive it. You know, and you know, at times when we're making those split second decisions, we're just going to have to go through some some growing pains, maybe just learning of what plays we can make and not make.
Billy, it seemed down the stretch they were kind of going at Josh a little bit. You pulled him off, and they were going at Vooch a little bit. What did you kind of see from them strategically, their offense down the stretch, and what were you guys trying to do about that?
Well, I mean, we were trying to show a little bit. It's tough when it's guard because when they're bringing guards into it, if you start trapping, you're leaving someone like Garland, another really good offensive player, alone. So a lot of it was to show coverage on it. You know, you're right. I mean, they were trying to target him. They ended up going with their 5-man and pick and roll. But we brought Vooch up really high, almost encouraging or inviting the pass to the wall. This is a big and see if he can make a play. But when it was guard, we were trying to show as best we could. We talked about trapping. I think Patrick had a pretty good look. A 3, we got to stop, and he got a 3 on the high slot away from our bench, and he missed it, which is fine. But if he would have made it, that would have made it like really tight. We probably would have tried to have trapped him in that situation. But going back, we just played the shot clock out. So for the most part, it was the guards were in shows, and Vooch, we have, in our bigs, just different coverages. They can be all the way up, they can trap, or they can be back a little bit. And we pulled Vooch up as high as we could to at least eliminate those pull-up shots from behind the screen.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Coach.
Billy.
Okay, thank you.